Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Pond ecosystem. Definition: a basin shaped small body of standing or lentic freshwater body. Origin: there are many possibilities for the formation of a pond. First one, when a stream shift its position leaving the former bed, यानी पानी किसी जगह पर मौजूद है, नदी की सूरत में वो बहता हुआ जाए और किसी और जगह जाके जमा हो जाए तो पॉन्ड की फॉर्मेशन हो सकती है. सेकेंड, बाय द डेपोजिशन ऑफ सिल्ट एंड अदर डेब्रिस इन बेड्स ऑफ स्लो फ्लोइंग स्ट्रीम. सिल्ट आर द सॉइल पार्टिकल. अगर हमारे पास किसी भी बहती हुई नदी के इर्द सॉइल पार्टिकल्स या कचरा जमा हो जाए तो बहती हुई नदी जो है वो हमारे पास ब्लॉक हो जाएगी और हमारे पास पॉन्ड की फॉर्मेशन हो जाएगी. When depression or sink develop because of the dissolution of the underlying layers in the limestone region. Limestone, the sedimentary rock, mainly composed of calcium carbonate. अगर रॉक्स में हमारे पास गड्ढे बन जाएं और उन गड्ढों में पानी की एक्यूमुलेशन हो जाए तो उसकी वजह से पॉन्ड्स की फॉर्मेशन होती है. The moving glacier down the slope in high mountain valley create basin which become filled with water of rain and melting snow. माउंटेन से ग्लेशियर लुढ़कते हुए आ रहे हैं वैली में, उनकी वजह से अगर बेसन या घड़े वगैरह बन जाएं वहाँ पानी की एक्यूमुलेशन से हमारे पास पॉन्ड फॉर्मेशन हो सकती है. ड्यू टू नॉन जियोलॉजिकल एक्टिविटीज़ सच एज डैमिंग ऑफ अ स्ट्रीम, मीन्स नदी का पानी बहता हुआ किसी जगह एक्यूमुलेट हो रहा है जिसकी वजह से डैम बन जाए, और बाय कंस्ट्रक्टिंग स्मॉल पॉन्ड्स फॉर द पर्पज़ ऑफ वाटर, फिशिंग एंड द ग्रोथ ऑफ वाइल्ड लाइफ. Physical characteristics of the pond. First one is the temperature. It is characterized by more stable temperature than the terrestrial ecosystem. यानी हमारे पास किसी भी वाटर बॉडी में या पॉन्ड में हमारे पास बेसिकली टेम्परेचर जो है बहुत स्टेबल रहता है, जबकि लैंड में हमारे पास डेली फ्लक्चुएशन बहुत ज़्यादा है. एंड द रीज़न इज़ बिकॉज ऑफ द स्पेसिफिक हीट ऑफ द वाटर. What is specific heat of water? The amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius, which means water absorb and loss a large amount of heat without any change in its own temperature. In the pond ecosystem, there is no daily fluctuation in the temperature. Fluctuation means दिन और रात के टेम्परेचर में वाज़ेह फ़र्क नहीं होता, क्योंकि वाटर जो है बहुत ज़्यादा अमाउंट में हीट को एब्जॉर्ब भी करता है, बहुत ज़्यादा अमाउंट में हीट को लॉस भी करता है, लेकिन उसके अपने टेम्परेचर में चेंजेस इतने नहीं आते. वाइल सीजनल चेंजेस कम्स ऑन ग्रेजुअली. सेकेंड फिजिकल फैक्टर ऑक्सीजन. द अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ द ऑक्सीजन इज़ वेरी स्मॉल, सो लिमिटिंग इन द पॉन्ड इकोसिस्टम. ऑक्सीजन एंटर्स इन द वाटर बाय द एब्जॉर्प्शन फ्रॉम एटमॉस्फेयर एंड बाय द प्रोसेस ऑफ फोटोसिंथेसिस. Third factor, physical factor, carbon dioxide. It is dissolved and chemically combined with the water, so occur both in the free and bound states. In the case of bound state, it is present in the form of carbonic acid. The carbonic acid may dissociate into the carbonates and bicarbonates. These carbonate and bicarbonate, they act as a buffer and resist the change in pH. And last physical factor is the light. Depth of light penetration, it is often limited by the suspended materials such as clay and silt and living organisms. यानी लाइट जो है यूजुअली सॉइल पार्टिकल की वजह से, लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स की वजह से एंड सस्पेंडेड मटेरियल की वजह से ज़्यादा डीप नहीं पेनिट्रेट हो सकती. दैट रिस्ट्रिक्ट द फोटोसिंथेटिक जोन. नाउ द लाइफ फॉर्म्स ऑफ द पॉन्ड. First one is the benthos, the organisms attached or resting on the bottom, for example clams and snail. Second life form of the pond ecosystem, periphyton and aphids, both the plants and animals clinging to the stem and leaves of the rooted plant, cling or bind or attached, for example hydra and flatworms. Third life form is the plankton. These are the floating organisms. Their movement depend on the water currents. For example, phytoplankton including diatoms, Zooplankton including copepods and rotifers. Fourth life form is the nekton, freely swimming organisms such as fish, amphibians, and large insects. And last life form is the neustron, that the organisms that rest or swim on the surface of the pond. Now the structure of the pond, it is subdivided into vertical strata, strata means layers, and horizontal zones based on the photosynthetic activity. Pond ecosystem is composed of three zones. The uppermost is known as the littoral zone, middle one limnatic zone, and deeper one or the depth zone is the profundal zone. First one is the littoral zone in which light penetrates to the bottom. It is the shallow water zone. Shallow means not very deep. This zone is occupied by the rooted plants. Numerous species of free floating algae are also present. The plant and animal found here vary with the water depth and a distinct zonation of life from deeper to shore. Shore means kinare. Producers, first one is the emergents. They are present near the shore, यानी pond के किनारे पर present होते हैं. Root and stem of these plants, they are immersed in water. Roots and lower part of the stem वो water के अंदर present होता है, जबकि upper part of the stem and leaves they stand above water, जो कि water से बाहर होते हैं. For example, Cirrus, Typha, Sagittaria, Sparaganium and Zizania. Second, floating aquatics. Further away from shore, rooted plants with the floating leaves. फ्लोटिंग एक्वेटिक वो हैं जो हमारे पास किनारों से दूर होते हैं. एग्जाम्पल इज द निम्फिया. Their leaf float on the surface of water and reduce the penetration of light into the water. Third, submerged aquatics. Submerged means underwater. Their leaves are thin and finely divided. For example, Potamicton. And other important species present in the pond ecosystem are the Myriophyllum, Elodia, Velisneria and Cara. Consumers of the pond ecosystem. Consumers of the littoral zone. First one is the Periphyton, including snails, damselfly, nymphs, rotifers, flatworms, hydra and midge larvae. Second type, Nekton, adult and larval diving beetles, Hemiptera, amphibians, tadpole of the frog and toad, salamander, turtle and water snake. Zooplankton including Daphnia, cyclops and rotifers. Another type is the Newton including beetle and strider, and the pond fish that move freely between the littoral and the limnatic zone. Limnatic, that is the middle zone of the pond ecosystem. Second is the limnatic zone. It is the open water zone and extend to the depth of effective light penetration, called compensation level. What is compensation level? Where photosynthesis just balance the respiration. Plants of the limnatic zone: phytoplankton, diatoms, desmites and filamentous alga. The distribution is affected by the temperature, oxygen and light. Animals of the limnatic zone: zooplankton, copepods, cladocyrans and rotifers. Nekton, that is entirely fish which feed both upon plants and animals. And last is the profundal or the benthic zone. It is the deep water zone beyond the depth of effective light penetration. Region of great biological activity means microbial activity. Therefore, a sharp decline in the oxygen level because of the presence of aerobic microorganisms, bacteria. The profundal zone is without producers. The organisms present here depend on food that is coming from the limnatic and the littoral zone. In the profundal zone, when organic matter is present in excess, that can be used by the fauna. Fauna is for the animals. This results in the formation of humus that is rich in methane and hydrogen sulfide. The organisms present in the profundal zone are the bacteria and fungi as microbes or decomposers. Other organisms present are the worms, larvae and clams. Clams are the mollusks. This is the diagram of the pond ecosystem. The uppermost region where light can penetrate is the littoral zone. The middle region is known as the limnatic zone and the deeper part is known as the profundal zone.